Yo, what's happening, people? Back again for another video. Don't forget to smash the like button if you like the content, and to subscribe to my channel in the bottom right hand corner. So today's discussion, so it's going to be, as you can see in the title, Manchester United's summer target list, in the three positions, in my opinion, that needs strengthening. So what I've done, I've compiled a list of 4 players for each position. On some of them, on one of them, which is some of the players that are actually there at the moment. So that list will consist of 3 of them. Okay, so starting off, centre back, position that United need to heavily invest in my opinion. Last season, well, last season, 2 seasons now, Harry Maguire, who cost 80 million, was the big summer transfer target that was secured by United. And as we can all see, that he's not good enough, and United do need to go out and get another centre back. Now, people will say, "Oh, you hear a lot of things in the media. United need to go and get someone to partner Maguire." In my opinion, I mean personally, I would buy 2 centre backs, which I know United ain't going to do. And as I've mentioned before as well, I know Eric Bailly, obviously, people will say about Eric Bailly's injuries. But in my opinion, United need to go and get another centre-back to partner Eric Bailly, and then have Lindelof or Maguire move on, or even Axel Tuanzebe to move on, in my opinion. Okay, so what I've done, the first person I've gone for, and you'll see obviously in my list as well, obviously I've gone for players that are left-footed, as I believe that United do need some more left-footed players to balance out the squad. So the first player that I've gone for to add a bit of balance at centre-back is Benoit Badiashile. So 19-year-old left-sided centre-back who plays for Monaco, French youngster. Now, obviously relatively inexperienced still, but I do believe with a different manager, he's actually a ball-playing defender, very good in the air, quick as well, strong. I do believe that with a better manager, the philosophy in play that they want to go with ball-playing centre-backs, I believe that Badiashile, as I say, being left-footed, would add serious balance to the back line, as well as obviously the attributes that I've mentioned as well. His cost, I mean, I would say you're looking at anywhere between 20 and 30 million. I would say between 20 and 30 million. I would say to get Badiashile, in my opinion, and that's something United should be looking at. I think too many times you're seeing United centre backs who are right-footed coming across goal, which is quite risky. So at least with Badiashile, he can turn out and obviously, as I say, add balance to that back line. So next person on the list, Kalidou Koulibaly, who plays for Napoli. He's a Senegalese international. Now, Koulibaly is obviously the oldest on this list, who he's going to turn 30 next season. I do believe United should still be in for him. I mean, the fee before was quite high. You were talking about 80 to 90 million for Koulibaly. And you can see why Koulibaly should be a target. And at that price was actually fair enough price, because he was, I mean, I still think he's in the top 5 centre-backs in the world. As I say, he's not left-footed, but he's a leader. He's good in the air, he's strong, he's quick. And that's something that I believe that United's backline does need. As I say, I would prefer balance with a left footer, but I think just because of his stature in the game, I do believe United could try and, or they should go and get him. His price obviously has come down as well, due to obviously Corona. So you're probably looking at about 50 to 60 million for Koulibaly, which in my opinion in this day and age is actually a good price for a defender of that caliber. So I do think United should obviously be interested. If they can get him for slightly cheaper, then even better. But as I say, I do think he should be made one of the main targets for centre back. Third on the list, which is the youngest player, who everyone's talking about at the moment. French defender, plays for Sevilla, Jules Cone. Another one who's right-footed, just like Koulibaly. I think Jules Cone is, I think he might be 21, I think 21 or 22. Up and coming defender, quick, very good on the ball, tenacious. I do think United should if United are looking to the future, then you're looking at Cundy and Badiashile. And as I say, Badiashile is left-footed for the balance, which would be a better bet in my opinion. But to get in a Jules Cundy, I mean, would obviously be a good acquisition. Problem with Jules Cundy, Jules Cundy is going to be highly sought after. So you're gonna have the likes of a Barcelona looking at him, possibly Real Madrid looking at him if they was to move on Ramos and Varane. Possibly someone like a Chelsea probably look at him. PSG. Yeah, so I think he's going to be highly sought after. And as most people know, with players that play in Spain, every player in Spain has a minimum fee release, and I believe that his minimum fee release might be in between 60 and 70 million. I think it might be. Do I think United should fork out 60 million for Cundy? 100%. I do think that he's a player that does need to be snapped up by one of the bigger clubs. Do I believe United can get him with all those other teams interested? It's highly unlikely. But as I say, yeah, United should try and make him one of the targets. And then we move on to the last person on the list, which is David Alaba. Now, there is talk that David Alaba has already agreed a deal with Real Madrid. Alaba can play centre-back, play left-back, Austrian international, one of the best defenders in the world. I think David Alaba might be 27, 28, I think he might be, but available on a free transfer. To get a player of that caliber on a free transfer is an opportunity that can't be missed, really. With Alaba, Alaba's a winner. He offers, as I mentioned, experience. He's left-footed as well, which, just like Badiashile, offers that balance. As I say, he's won everything club-wise in the game, from Champions League, and cups, playing for Bayern Munich. So as I say, he's coming on the free. The probably only stumbling block would be his wages. I think I read something the other day that's saying that he's looking for, I think, between 350 and 400 grand a week. Now, bearing in mind, you're not paying a transfer fee for him. He's going to obviously offer. I'm going to want more wages, a higher wage. Do I believe United should get him? If United are not looking for the experience in that position, then yeah, you should actually. I do think United should obviously pull out all the stops to go and get him, because I say he's a proven winner. Yeah, so I do. The only reason he's on the last for me on the list is because I do believe that he's on his way to Real Madrid, which will be a bit of a shame, and as I say, will obviously improve Real Madrid's backline. So yeah, those are the four centre backs that I've gone for. So Benoit Badiashile at AS Monaco, Kalidou Koulibaly at Napoli, Jules Cone at Sevilla, and David Alaba, who's at Bayern Munich but will be available on a free. Then we move into the defensive midfield position. Okay, so another position that I believe United needs to improve on. I think too many times we're seeing the double pivot of McTominay and Fred, which needs to stop, because someone like a Pogba, and I'm hoping Pogba does stay, he's having to play as a deep line midfielder. Whereas if you had a very good defensive midfielder, I believe you can play two central midfielders, really. First player I've gone for, which is kind of a bit of an unrealistic target. And he's probably more of a central midfield player, but I believe he can play in the middle of a flat three in midfield, and with him being in the centre, just playing slightly deeper, I do believe he can play there. And that's Eduardo Kamavina. So Kamavinga's a French international. I believe he's only, I think he's 17 or 18. One of the up and coming stars of world football. He's wanted by Real Madrid. He's wanted by all the top clubs: Real Madrid, Barcelona. And you can see if he does go to Real Madrid, obviously because Zidane's there as well. He will cost a lot of money, so you're probably looking at about upwards, in my opinion, upwards of 60 million. So you're probably looking at about an 80 million transfer fee for Eduardo Kamavina, such as the potential of him. Made his debut actually for Rennes when he was 16. So yeah, I do believe United should try and get him. Whether they can try and entice him is another story. But he would be a very good player, and obviously one for the future, and obviously someone to come in and do a job now. Then we move on to Declan Rice. Declan Rice at West Ham, England international. I believe Declan Rice must be about 2021. Now, obviously, Declan Rice had a very good season at West Ham. With the English premium, you are looking at upwards of 70 million, 80 million. Do I think Declan Rice is worth that money? No, I don't. But obviously, as I say, because he's playing in England, that's the kind of price you're probably looking at for someone like that, who probably has about 3 years probably left on his contract, maybe 4 years left on his contract. He's second in my list. I mean, I think just based on the price, I wouldn't necessarily go for him, because I do believe that someone like a Kamavina has a higher ceiling than Declan Rice, in my opinion. That's not to say that Declan Rice isn't a good player, but I just think that Declan Rice, for that price, might be a bit too steep, in my opinion. But there's no doubt that Declan Rice will be a very good addition to Man United, playing, as I say, as a defensive midfielder, and someone that United should probably look at to get to fill that void. One player I've actually left out, which I didn't include on my list, which is Wilfred Ndidi. The reason I left out Ndidi is because Ndidi is probably the best DM in the league, and Leicester are never going to sell Ndidi, in my opinion. And if they did sell him, the fact that United got paid 80 million for Maguire, you're probably looking at close to 100 million for someone like an Ndidi, in my opinion, if someone wanted to actually buy him. And obviously, if United went back to Leicester to try and buy him as well, it's going to easily be 100 million. So that's why I've left him out of my list. Someone I've gone for, who's third on my list, and that's Ryan Gravenberch at Ajax, young Dutch international, just like Kamavina, a future world superstar. You're looking at Kamavina. I think Gravenberch. Sorry, I think Gravenberch could cost upwards of 60 million, in my opinion, as well. I don't believe these players are unrealistic targets. I think if Man United really are the club where they should aspire to be, I think United should go all out for these kind of players. As I say, Ryan Gravenberch, defensive midfielder, centre midfielder. As I say, he's got a lot of quality on the ball. He's very good in possession, tenacious in the tackle, very technical. Pops up with the odd goal as well. And as I say, he's a Dutch international. That's going to be the future of their team in midfield. Well, if Barcelona and the likes of Real Madrid, Man City come in for him, it's going to be tough. But I believe that United should have scouts out there looking at someone like him and trying to see if he'll be interested in coming to the club. Especially if someone like a Pogba goes, he would be ideal to be the replacement, just like a Kamavina, in terms of stature of player, style of player. And then the last person on my list which is a bit of a unknown quantity, really. Someone that I've been aware of for ages, and he's starting to get his recognition now, and that's Ebasuma at Brighton. So Ebasuma, I believe, I think he might be a Malian international. I think it's either Mali or Senegal he might be playing for. Very good player. Can go and play for any team in the league, in my opinion. And it won't be long before a Real Madrid, and a Barcelona start looking at someone like him as well. At a smaller club, as you will know, like Brighton. But with Liverpool interested in him, if Wijnaldum goes, you can see why they would want to get someone like him in. And I'm surprised that a Man City really are not really linked to him, seeing as Fernandinho is on his way out. And I know they've got Rodri, but Basuma would be a very good replacement there as well. Basuma, very good in possession. Another one, very good in the tackle. And his potential, I think he's 24, 25, but his potential to go and play for a bigger club, in my opinion, was on the horizon last season. You can see last season he had something about him, and this season you can obviously see that he's gonna excel. I think he'll cost the lesser out of all other three players. I think you're looking at anywhere between 30 and 40 million for someone like Basuma, which in this market is reasonable. So yeah, he'll be another good addition to United's squad, and something that they should be looking at. Then we move on to right wing. Someone that I would like to go for, because I like inverted players. So I like a left-footed player that's on the right to cut in and give that give like a different option. So if you've got a marauding fullback, they can go around the outside, and obviously the inverted player comes in to link up with your striker for a 1-2 or for a shot. And I prefer right foot on the left. So the first player that I've gone for in terms of right wing is Paulo Dybala. Now, Paulo Dybala isn't actually a right winger; he's actually a number 10. But as I say, I believe in a system and a formation, if Man United do play with like a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3, I do believe Dybala could play from that position with the license to have like a little free roam. But as I say, cutting in on his left foot for a shot or for like a 1-2. Do I believe United could get Dybala? There is talk with a Pogba Dybala swap, which I wouldn't really want. I want Pogba to stay and Dybala to come and join him. I do believe Dybala would add another dimension to United's team. I think the problem Dybala has now is that at Juventus, he's become more or less second fiddle to Cristiano Ronaldo, whereas before everything was more or less going through him in an attacking sense. I believe he will cost about, with his contract coming down, you could probably get Dybala for probably about 60, 70 million, which is still a bit steep, but I do think he'll be worth it. People might say he won't adjust to this league, but just look at someone like David Silva, he's adjusted fine, amongst others as well, like a Gundogan. Look at what Gundogan's doing now. So Dybala coming to this United team would be a good addition. As I say, he's an Argentinian international with plenty of experience. Is a goal threat, very technical, and I believe he should be made the number one target for United, in my opinion. And then second on the list, we've got Jadon Sancho. Now, Jadon Sancho is an obvious target for United to go for in terms of his English. He's the poster boy of English football. He's young as well. And I think with Sancho, I think Sancho obviously wants to come back to England, and I think his fee will be nowhere near as much as it was last summer. So you're probably looking at getting Sancho for probably about 60, 70 million, I would say, in this current climate. He's not he's someone that I would want, but as I say, I prefer a left-footed player on the right. And as Rashford's, obviously they want to play Rashford out on the left-hand side, is someone to go on the other side, which could have been a bit of a problem for someone like a Mason Greenwood or Amad Diallo, who's just come in as well. But I would still go for Sancho. As I say, Sancho's quality, assists and goals, he's been doing that for the last couple of seasons in Germany. I think there's a record the other day that he actually broke the record for being the youngest player to hit 35 goals in the Bundesliga at the age of 20. So you can see the potential that he's got. as I say, and I think someone like Sancho as well. The reason I think he'd be key to come in is because there is no creativity in this team, especially from out wide. Because you've got someone like a Rashford or a Mason Greenwood, because they look at themselves as forwards and not creators. Their first instinct is to cut in and have a shot, which is going to be to the detriment of any striker playing in this team, which is the one likes of Martial and even Cavani have struggled to get consistent goals, because the wide players, their first intention isn't to create, it's to kind of get a shot and get the goals themselves. So that's what Sancho would bring. He'll bring assists with him, and he'll bring, like I say, another dimension to United's team. Then we move on to the third person in this list, which, as I say, might be another left field signing. And for me, it will be Ousmane Dembele. Another one just like Sancho, a right-footed player, but can obviously play right and left. One thing about Dembele, as everyone knows, he is injury prone, but I do believe that Dembele potentially and just ability-wise should be considered. Hopefully, he's gotten over his injury woes at the moment. He seems to be playing injury-free. So let's hope that he can kind of have an injury-free season from now. You're probably looking at with Dembele. I mean, considering what he cost originally was like upwards of 100 million, you're probably looking at getting Dembele for about 60 million, I'd say, 60 to 70 million. Another one, very technical, likes to take on his man. Pace is absolutely ridiculous. One thing I'd like to see him do more is score more goals, and possibly and create more goals as well. But he's another one, just like Sancho. Their first thought is to create, not to obviously score goals. And I think that's what United need. They need players out on the wing. That is their first thought of mind is to create a chance for their striker. So I do think he'll be a good addition. French international as well. Sancho, I would say, he's an English international. So I do think they'll bring experience with them as well, and they'll bring a different dimension. And then on the list, I've got Diallo and I've got Greenwood, who are already at the club. I do believe Greenwood could eventually end up as like a right wing forward player, just like who I mentioned with Dybala, someone that can cut in on the left foot for a shot. I do think Greenwood can has the potential to go and do that, just like Diallo as well. Diallo does need time to adjust to the league and to obviously get more experience. Just like Greenwood, although Greenwood has had obviously a lot more experience in the league than a Diallo. Okay, so that's my four options for positions. So centre back, defensive midfield, and right wing, which is what I feel United need to address in the summer. I do believe there is other positions in the team that probably could do with strengthening as well, but I do think that them three positions are the key. And as I say, in my opinion, hopefully United get a new manager, and obviously these targets are in mind, and they go for, and obviously United can obviously do well next season. So what I'm going to move on to now is the standards at Man United. So I'm just going to touch on just quickly the standards. So do I think the standards at Man United have dropped? In my opinion, they have dropped, and the reason I think they have dropped is because I look at the playing squad of United. Now, the playing squad, in comparison to other teams in the league, is actually a good squad. But the problem that I see with the team is that you got players, and I'm going to mention them. If you look at United's starting lineup now, I would say you've got players like Harry Maguire. You've got Scott McTominay and even Dan James, who started yesterday against Newcastle. Basically, these players feature heavily in the first 11. Now, if I look at the whole Man United squad, I would say, if I'm being honest, there's probably only 4 or 5 players that, in my opinion, are actual Man United quality that should be playing every week, and a team should be built around them. And I would say You've got Paul Pogba, Anthony Martial, Donny van de Beek, Luke Shaw. I'd say had a good season, and then you'd probably say. I mean, I know people will say Bruno, but I'm not going to say Bruno, and I'm going to tell you why. I'm not going to say Bruno. I was saying Eric Bailly. Okay, so Pogba, Martial, Donny van de Beek, Luke Shaw, and Eric Bailly. So those five players I've just mentioned, I would say these five players currently in the team, I feel the team should be built around them. Now, the reason I've not included Rashford and I've not included Bruno in there is because I believe that the reason we're seeing the football that we're seeing is purely because, and I say the football that Man United are playing this season has been nothing short of a joke. I mean, yeah, United find themselves second in the league, but have they been playing second in the league type of football? Not really. A lot of their play is just based on counter attack. People will say, yeah, but Bruno and Rashford have got goals, but football is an entertainment business, and when I'm watching Man United, I don't really get any entertainment watching him. And that's because the team is set up to get the best out of Bruno and Rashford. Now, Bruno and Rashford are players that you don't build a team around. They're players that you have when a team is already set, and then they'll just do their kind of thing. But when the first port of call is to play through them, there's no surprising why the team is playing a poor brand of football. If I just give you someone like Donny van de Beek, for instance, Donny van de Beek, you can tell he's a pure footballer. He's just someone that's had the education of playing football the right way, in my opinion. But the team's never going to be built around him as long as his manager's in charge, because the way the team plays is, as I say, is more of a counter-attacking kind of play. So that's why I've not included Rashford and Bruno, because they're players that play more or less off the cuff, and they need a lot of space to run into. Whereas when you're playing against low block teams, you need players that are actually good on the ball. And in my opinion, I don't really believe that them two are that great on the ball. Really, as I say, they rely on a lot of space. So the reason I think United standards dropped as well is because, let's be honest. Now, the way I look at Man United is that Man United should have the best people available for the job, in terms of coaches, in terms of manager, in terms of playing staff. Now, when certain players have a good game, and I'm going to use someone like a Dan James, for instance. Now, when Dan James actually plays well, you get a lot of people saying, "Oh, but Dan James scored. He should be playing next game." And that for me, there and there, tells you that the standards at United have dropped, because let's have it right. Dan James should not even be at the club, if we're honest. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer shouldn't be at the club. If Man United are actually being serious and they aspiring to be, let's say, where Man City are now, one of the best teams in the world, you don't have a Solskjaer, because how I view Solskjaer is Solskjaer the manager to basically overtop Pep and Klopp? No way. In my opinion, the only person that would have done that would have been a Pochettino, and he's now in France. So that's why I say the standards are dropped, because United are second. Have come to a lot of people have come to the realization that Solskjaer's doing well and he shouldn't be sacked. I think a ruthless mentality from the club, and a lot of the fan base just needs to have the ruthless mentality of, is he the guy to topple those managers that I've mentioned? And the answer to that is no. So that's why, in my opinion, of have the standards at the club dropped, and that's where I look at it and I think, well, yeah, they clearly have dropped, because settling for second best for me is not acceptable at a club like Man United, and that seems to be what's happening at the moment, you know. Second best just means you're the first loser in my eyes. Club like United should always be striving to be the best in the world, and at the moment they're not really acting like that in terms of the coaching staff and the manager and the playing staff that are favoured. That's just my opinion. And then I'm going to move on just quickly before I finish off onto the commentary in this country. For me, the commentary in this country is disgraceful. And I'm going to start off on the commentary last night. Jermaine Genius, I touched on him before. The problem with someone like a Jermaine Genius is that I actually don't think people like Jermaine Genius, I know people see them on TV and see them on Match of the Day, etc. And people around the world will probably think, oh, they were ex-footballers and they know what they're talking about. In my opinion, he ain't got a clue, Jermaine Genius. The slander that he was giving someone like a Martial yesterday was a joke. And you can see what was happening is that it's like, to me, Jermaine Genius was thriving off Martial doing something bad just so he can just have something to say. Now, I think what it is as well is that a lot of these old school pundits, so I watched Match of the Day as well, like your Dion Dublins, your Alan Shearers, because of the way that they played the game back in the day, the style of play was different. They look at strikers that were basically reminiscent of themselves. So Dion Dublin was just a physical striker that was just good in the air, and Alan Shearer was the same. So what they'll do, they'll look at someone. I'll give you example. I'm gonna say Anthony Martial, because this is the player that they was criticizing yesterday. Now, if you look at someone like Anthony Martial, he's a different type of striker that you see in today's game, because he's someone that has an all-round game. If you look at Alan Shearer and Dion Dublin, their all-round game was nowhere near it. These were just penalty box strikers that were just good in the air, really. And I think it's unfair that the criticism that they give to other strikers that don't really fit their narrative of what they look for. As I said, like this comes back to a generation thing where you can tell the kind of strikers they like are just players that just play on the shoulder, that are good in the air, physical. And unfortunately for them, the game's changed. The game's move past strikers of that ilk that they were. And that's the problem that you see. You've got a lot of pundits who are from a different generation, and rather than them try to figure out different styles of strikers, etc., they'd rather just say it's more or less a lazy kind of commentary, really, on a player. They'll just say they don't think he's a striker, but they don't necessarily give you the reasons why they think this person is not a good striker. They'll just say, oh, he's not good, and give you no analysis. This is why I believe the likes of like a Robin van Persie, who is someone that I respected greatly. This is why I think some people, strikers like him, who are like the new kind of generation of pundits, this is why I believe that they need to come onto the panel, and rather than having these old school Dion Dublins, Alan Shearers just giving their biased opinion. Because Robin van Persie wasn't a physical kind of penalty box striker, and he's someone that can relate to a Anthony Martial and other strikers of that kind of style, because they'll be able to give you analysis and a breakdown of why this player is good. Because I don't need stats. I don't need these pundits telling me an Anthony Martial isn't a striker or he's not good. I can just see in my eyes that he's good, but he's just being victimized really by just bias, basically, from, as I say, the Jermaine Geniuses, the Alan Shearers, the Dion Dublins of this world, to name a few. They're just being biased because of a way that these guys see the game. And as I say, someone like a Robin van Persie, he would give you an analysis and an insight into strikers like Martial that you see in today's game. As I said, so yeah, it's a shame really, because this guy gets so much criticism, and I'm someone that, as I say, I'll just speak my mind and say what I've got to say. The criticism that he gets is a joke, really. And what makes it even funnier as well is that I actually checked something. Today actually, and these people won't make you think this, and you won't know unless you do your actual research onto players. But by the stats, Anthony Martial's game, his all-round game, is better than the likes of Harry Kane, Erling Haaland, and Marcus Rashford. So his all-round game is better than those three players. But if you was to ask anyone, if you just say from first to fourth, I can guarantee you now the majority of these pundits and majority of people would put Anthony Martial fourth behind Kane, Haaland, and Rashford. But when you look at the all-round game, statistically, by the stats, Martial's all-round game is better than all of them. His all-round game is better than all of them. As I say, I checked that today. Erling Haaland, yeah, he's a goal scorer, but his all-round game isn't nowhere near a Martial in terms of touch, in terms of bringing others into play. I'm not saying he can't do that, but on a consistent basis, he's not doing that in terms of the quality. And just like Harry Kane as well, another one, he's a goal scorer, and he is good at obviously the long range passing, etc. But his all round game isn't better than Martial's. And Marcus Rashford, as we know, is not a striker. He's someone that plays from the left, and his all round game isn't better than Martial. So, as I say, people that slander Martial need to really obviously have a look and think: is he as bad as what these people are telling us? And the answer to that is no, And I say I checked that today, and I knew this anyway. I knew his all-round game was good, But sometimes, as I say, you need to just have a look and see if some of these stats back up the criticism. And as I know, and as many people know, it doesn't. Okay, so yeah, so that was my stream today on the key positions that United need to address in the summer. And obviously the standards dropped at United that I've touched on, also the state of the commentary in this country. Okay, so I hope you guys like my video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel in the bottom right hand corner, and I'll catch you guys on Wednesday with another video. Take it easy.